Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by Mana Traders, as well as Twitch subs and Patreon supporters just like you. My name is Evan Irwin, and get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Power Dragon.
What's up, everybody? And man, this feels like a good change of pace. It's kind of a chilled news week.
Kind of chill. We're here. We're getting ready for the Final Fantasy train to start rolling, which is going to be big and scary. Ruben Pressler.
Yeah, light news week. There's not a lot to talk about. We do have financial news, so that's exciting.
We know you all are here for that sweet financial discourse. Yeah. But it is to note, and it is good to explain sort of like, where are we at in terms of Wizard of the Coast and Hasbro? Well, where it's at is that Wizard of the Coast makes Hasbro all of their money. And Hasbro doesn't make a lot of money when it's not in the Wizards of the Coast playground. But that is what that is. Interesting. Their Wizard, the Magic in particular, grew like 40. Their revenues grew 45% compared to last year. That is crazy. That is nuts. Also, store counts being up 20% compared to 18 months ago. That is huge. Like there's just all new stores all over the place, which is great. And then the real killer, the cherry on top here, was that Final Fantasy is going to be the best-selling set of all time on day one. It already is the best-selling all-timer. It beat Lord of the Rings.
So how do they
already
know that? How do they know that?
Pre-orders are already in with distributors.
Got it.
Because they have to order so much so it's able to go to retailers on pre-release weekend. So it'll have to be in the warehouse ready to ship out.
Exactly. So what happens is distributors, they talk to Wizards. This is also where you get that, like, remember that the early look or whatever, the first look type things at the set. They used to do that stuff behind closed doors. It would always leak out. It was a big pain in the ass. Yada yada. Now they're just like, look, here's cool stuff. Isn't it neat? All right, distributors, tell them how much you want. Distributors go talk to stores and or their clients, customers. And every customer apparently was just like, we want every Final Fantasy thing ever, always. Thank you. And they're like, are you sure? And they're like, And so the distributor said, we want a Pro Jillian. And Wizards is like, really? And then we get this. And I can only imagine like them just hopping through the door of the president's office.
Yeah.
Being like, Chris, you should see the pre-orders for Final Fantasy.
Of course.
This is insane.
Now, I have a question. And we'll have lots of time to talk about the Final Fantasy set that is coming. And we'll talk more about the crossover and the popularity. I am not a Final Fantasy girly. I don't know anything about Final Fantasy. I've never played a Final Fantasy game. All I know about Final Fantasy is I've learned second or third hand. I had no idea that it was this pervasive and this popular, even being a content creator in the gaming space.
Let me tell you.
How is it? Yeah, go ahead.
You just need to know about fishing, chocobo racing, and blitzball, and you got it covered.
Amazing. Apparently, though, I need to know more about demographics because this is a series that is so pervasive that it will beat out the Lord of the Rings, and it will beat out maybe Marvel sets.
Yeah.
And
maybe.
And so that's what I'm confused by or surprised by, I think.
Sure. I think part of it is that a huge chunk of this and a giant part of the sales, I'm sure they're not really explaining fully, is Japan. Japan and Final Fantasy. You think we like Final Fantasy? Holy shit. Their whole economy stops when there's a new Final Fantasy game. Like everybody takes off of work, like shit shuts down. Yeah. It's everything. So like that's so huge. So when we're talking those sales numbers, that's what's going to knock it in the stratosphere. Because Magic's not in the top 10 last I looked in Japan. That's crazy. That blows my mind, but I don't think they are. I think they used to be, but they've been slipping from various, like One Piece has been out now. There's all sorts of I think Gundam's coming out as well. A bunch of stuff that's got great appeal over there, and that's awesome. But yeah, getting that Japanese market to go nuts, the fact that there are Japanese unique promos, right? Japanese unique buy box promos, I think it was. Again, what market are you really trying to target here? Which one are going to buy the hardest? I think we can see that. But Final Fantasy is beloved in ways that few things are.
I would also say for Final Fantasy, there's only really been, I think, one card game version of it that's been accessible to Americans.
Yeah.
Really, which is another big thing. So if you're a super fan of the product, it never shows up on trading card games here in the States or in English for the most part. So that alone is going to also push it up another tier that you can now have all your characters on cards you can actually use. So like it's limited exposure, I would say, for the brand in that regard as far as games go. So
Plus,
there's a lot of money to be made in that part of the market.
Like Ruben, if anything, I'm kind of jelly because you never got to experience Final Fantasy games, because particularly when you were younger, because when we were kids, those RPGs that take 30, 40, 80 hours, whatever, it didn't matter. I'd burn
a lot more
them.
time.
I'd have all the time in the world. I got to beat Final Fantasy VII because I had the time to do so. I don't have as much these days. But as a man who's 44 years old, remembering hanging out with my best friend in the dark room with the NES, and the Final Fantasy map is up on the wall, and I got the big instruction booklet and the strategy guide, and we're trying to figure out how to get, like, that shit's incredible. And to just kind of relive all that stuff and bring back all those characters and talk about all those memories is just crazy nostalgia bait there. So you just have so many layers of fandom and love and generations of it. And there's a freaking massive multiplayer online game. Was it Final Fantasy?
Is there
14?
14 is 14 the MMO, and it's still going. Like, and apparently it's awesome. So even after they like revamped everything or something recently, over the past couple of years. So yeah, all I know is, man, it's hard to deny, and shit. Literally, the president's like, it's the biggest ever. Not one pack is on a shelf yet. Like, that's crazy.
And I'll say, don't feel bad, because I've never beat a Final Fantasy game. I stopped on those 3 activities and just did that forever. So I've literally never finished one of those games. I finished Breath of Fire too, but never finished a Final Fantasy game.
I remember this so clearly. At some point in Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy games, generally, you'll get to the point where you get to use these called summon spells, right? Remember the sagas, summons as like creatures and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Cool. They had awesome, incredible animations. Super cool, 30, 40 seconds, 60 seconds plus. Just these dragons are outside of the earth and energy beaming. Yeah, every single time you cast that summon spell, you had to watch that entire animation.
Bruh, Knights of the Round, skipping. I think for real took like 4 minutes.
Dude.
It was literally like every knight comes in and does his attack, and the next one comes in. Oh my God. That was so
great.
brutal.
As a kid, it was really cool. But, using that summon, I'm like, damn, I got 2 minutes of my life to sit here and watch this stupid dragon blow up the earth again. Like, it was a thing. But yeah, lovely. I love it. Magic's killing it, man.
But I will say this too.
45% is just wild. I don't even know where to go with that.
To Ruben's point, the demographics also are gonna be pretty diverse as far as male, female demographics as well, which is also another big selling point here.
Yeah, and the other thing that came out on the report was the operating profit increased 87%. Wow. Operating margin was 49.8%, up 11 points. We are insane. Those margins are cosmetics. Those margins aren't pharmaceutical. Those are stupid. But those are crazy margins. Those are crazy margins. That's money hand over fist. And so
Yeah,
players keep buying it.
There was also a lot of other stuff too that they had, like the studio sell-off that's been slowly coming off the books, and other things where they've been making themselves more cash forward. So that's starting to show up in these numbers as well. But, they still showed growth in Marvel, Transformers, Monopoly. Hell, we were talking about it in the pre-show. Monopoly Go made another $40 million.
Right.
So they're still finding ways to make money despite international issues or whatever.
Yeah, and this is where the narrative shows up. Where I'm just like, this is bad and I don't like it. Well, you got to stop buying it, because when you actually stop buying it, also known as aftermath, shit changed. Oh, sorry, old stuff changed, and real fast. Yeah, real fast. And they listened real quick, and it changed how Outlaws completely worked and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the thing for me, whenever one of these financial reports comes out, because every time one comes out, we talk about it on the show.
Right.
And every time they come out, most of the time, it's positive and it's glowing and it's, hey, look, everybody, we're so successful. All of the things are great, but here are our real props, right? Here are our real great things. And more often than not, Magic is on that list. And then a month or two later, we hear about a downturn or layoffs or something that makes it not great. And then the next financial report comes out. And it's like, we've grown again.
We crushed it.
And like, so, and this is very much like how the stock market ebbs and flows.
Right.
And, you know, you shouldn't be bragging necessarily that you're going up 30% when you were down 20% in the last quarter. Of course, you're back to where you were. That's how money works.
Sure.
So is this sustained growth? Is this sustainable growth? Or on the flip side, is this like venture capital eating our own flesh, you know, turning all of our assets into cash? Or is this something in between? Is this actually good growth?
No, I think this is actually sustainable. I mean, well, it has been for, I don't know, for 3 years straight now.
Okay, at this point, laying off a lot of people, but it still has been solid.
Yeah, but the numbers have still been solid. And like I said, they did have missteps. Like we talked about paying whatever it was, like $1 billion for that studio or whatever.
Yeah, the E1
but
thing.
They've slowly been pulling those things off the books, selling off assets, you know, making their inventory right so they don't have too much in inventory hold. Like a bunch of different stuff like that that's just showing up in the numbers. So for as much as we are saying, like, you know, Wizards does make them a lot of money, like they have found other things that are producing money as well.
Look, if we're going to talk about spending some money, could we please get a sequel to the D&D movie? Because it was
you ain't
awesome.
lying.
And I loved it, and it's crushed on streaming. It's got insane ratings everywhere. I've showed it to my kids; they loved it. Like, that don't happen.
The D&D movie is the first movie in a while to me that is a cult classic. Because cult classics used to take off with VHS and DVD.
Right.
And now it's actually like, and series get to do this more often. Like Suits took off when streaming happened.
Right.
It was never the number one never the number one show. But then as soon as streaming happened, it became the number one streaming show. You know, why that happened, that doesn't matter. But it is what happened. Similarly, the D&D movie is poised to be a cult classic. It's making more money in its second life, the way that DVDs used to.
Right.
And so hopefully we get more of that. And I think that, you know, as we see the movie industry shift and change, that movies that have a sustainable lifespan on streaming services are gonna help with that. And if it works for Wizards of the Coast to license for a D&D, I'm happy with that too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take it. You know, for example, I don't know, are they even going to try to do a Baldur's Gate type anything? Like, I haven't seen anything about them working with their studios. Larian clear doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Like,
well, Larian.
Go ahead.
I was going to say Larian was extremely frustrated with Wizards of the Coast post working with them pre-game release, because a lot of the layoffs that we were just talking about came with the people who brought Larian in and built that project. And, you know, there was a comment at some point where Larian was like, all of the people that started this project are no longer at the company. And so we don't really feel this connection to Wizards of the Coast anymore. And they were frustrated by the buildup. Now, once they were able to just do everything on their own, they obviously made a masterpiece.
Right.
Catch Us Every Tuesday. But they don't really want to make another one, even though they captured Lightning in the Bottle with 3. So I am sure Wizards of the Coast is on the lookout for a company to make Baldur's Gate 4 in the future.
Yeah, I feel like I remember reading something last year that there was a negotiation issue as well. Like they were still considering it, but like I don't know if Wizards wanted more for the licensing or something. And at some point, Tencent was involved or was considering getting involved with Larian to try to make a play at it or something, and then none of it happened. So the deal just died. So as of now, Baldur's Gate's still a license that's available, but I would assume after the popularity of BG3, like somebody's got to want to pick it up.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can you imagine the pressure of trying to develop Baldur's Gate 4? Like,
dude, I feel that way for any MMO that comes out over the next couple of years. For the next 4 or 5 years, whatever you make, no matter how good it is, somebody's going to say, "Oh, well, it's not BG3."
Right.
You know, it's getting Shyamalan, right? Well, you know,
we also have Claire
it's
Obscure
not as good
right
as
now.
I See Dead People, you know.
Claire Obscure Exhibition 33 selling over 1 million copies on Steam.
Yeah.
Only game that is a 0.002% of games sell that many on Steam.
Yeah.
A fifth of 1%. So like it's wild. All right, let's move on here to Gather the Townsfolk. Thanks to our sponsor, Mana Traders. Woohoo! Let's get the best tool to enhance your Magic Online experience. Use the code MagicMinds_54P. That's 54Paul for 10% off your next subscription with Mana Traders. Tell them we sent you. We really appreciate them helping out the show. Moving on in, y'all. Tell me, you guys, about Lady Lavinias being the new influencer marketing manager.
Amazing choice. For people who don't know, for us content creators, she used to be the main point of contact for GameSite, who had the contract for a long time with Wizards to do a lot of projects. So, like, say if you saw me in a promotional video on TikTok or on YouTube or whatever, a lot of those were going through GameSite, and she was the point of contact at the time for that. So she's got lots of familiarity already with everybody in the space. She shows up to the Magic Cons and kind of networks and meets people and finds people for projects. So she's already a step ahead for the position. I mean, I would be really surprised, genuinely, if anybody else they interviewed for it would have been better than her, or at least wouldn't have been as knowledgeable as she is with the space already. So
yeah,
it'd be hard to have a better choice, I think.
It's a great choice. Is a Magic content creator, so that's very exciting. We've had a checkered past as it pertains to our content managers with their familiarity with Magic. The content manager coming in, we have no such qualms. Lady Lavinias is a Magic the Gathering content creator and is very familiar with the game and is very familiar with the game of the content management side of things. And so she's going to know all of the people already. She's going to have lots of connections. She's going to hit the ground running with her knowledge base. And she's already, she's a popular creator in and of her own right. So very excited for this announcement. I think that it is I am much more optimistic about her than I am about many other announcements in the past of content managers. Obviously, my heart still belongs with Diana, but she went to Riot. And, she's got big shoes to fill, but I think that she can fill them.
I'll say this, too. Credit to whoever's job it is to fill this position, because they seem to get people who at least can do the job.
Yeah.
Repeatedly. Now, things happen, they move on, get other careers, whatever the case is, and get replaced eventually. But we've been very lucky as Magic content creators compared to what I see in other spaces.
We've definitely been eating good the last couple of years, too.
Yeah.
I think the issue there for at least a good long while was that it kind of ebbed and flowed, where someone would come in, they'd be killing it, they're crushing it, and then like poof, and you'd be like, wait, where did so-and-so go? And then somebody else would come in, killing it, crushing it, poof, and you're like, could we just a little bit of consistency? And it didn't feel like there was a lot of handoffs, and a lot of people were just like, I'm just kind of getting caught up. And you're like, why are you just getting caught up? We've been doing these relationships for blah, blah, blah. But that was frustrating for a while.
There's two things happening there. There's lots of things happening there, but I'll stick with two of them. Okay. One of them is when you get hired to work at Wizards of the Coast, it's a dream job, but they don't pay you as much as the rest of the industry in a lot of their branches. And so when Riot comes calling, you go to Riot. That's what happens. Yeah. Like they put, it's like when you're a star player in Major League Soccer and then the EPL comes calling and they're like, here's 4 times as much money. And you're like, well, I guess that's my price. And that's fine. And the other thing is that there was a long stretch there where they were not pulling from the Magic community, which is also fine. They don't necessarily need to pick lifers for every single job every single time. But there was like 4 or 5, maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration. There was like 3 or 4 probably in a row managers who no one in the Magic content creation community knew who they were before they started working. And so those relationships had to be built. And without a handoff, they had to spend 6 months building those relationships. And then they only really had the job for 6 months before they got headhunted by another company. And so that's going to keep happening.
I think, though, something to be said, too, is kind of the difference in business, let's say even, just pre-COVID compared to now. is I feel like now they have a better handle on social media and what they're expecting to get out of it and how they're measuring it. You know, like there's a whole MTG Arena channel that YouTube or that Wizards has now on YouTube, right? Things that didn't exist before, that now they understand the space a little bit more. They know the benefit of creators a little bit more. They know how to leverage them. They know when they need them for something and when they can just use a studio for something. Those are things that I think took Wizards a long time to figure out because they never really touched that space for a long time. And I think that's going to be something that also makes Lady Lavinia's job a little bit easier as well. Like, it's going to be a good time for Kat because of all the work that's happened over the last like 3 to 4 years. It's gonna help her out.
It's just as difficult, not quite, but I think it's about just as difficult as drawing that line between having a pro tour and having a high, a high pro circuit leads to more money versus saying, hey, working with these influencers and having this program leads to more money. Like, it's not always a straight line. Like, the numbers you look at can ebb and flow. Yes, it would be great if, you work with X person and all of a sudden they made Y dollars, but putting all that stuff together is difficult. And so it makes those conversations tough. You know what I mean? They're like, well, why should we put $100,000, $200,000 worth of, man hours and or labor and or anything into this, influencer program? Well, because we reach so-and-so people, because we get so-and-so interest, we get an uptick on this, uptick on that. Knowing how those metrics matter are really important.
So going back to, this is tying also into the big financial stuff, which is, we hemmed and hawed and we're upset at the layoffs when they occurred. We're always going to be upset at the layoffs. But looking back 3 years down past to those big layoffs, that the most recent large amount of layoffs that occurred a few years ago, it seems as if that they've stopped having to trim the hedges and that they are now at the size and shape they want to be, which is going to make it easier for them to make these kinds of financial decisions about community management and marketing and things like that, because they know what their budget is. Then you start to bring in people who know the community in addition to knowing the industry. And you start to be able to hand people like Kat a stable workflow as soon as they walk in the door. So you're getting someone who's experienced in the community with a job that is now much more stable than it was 3 years ago, with a lot less variability. And I think that that's going to help a lot with onboarding and going to help a lot with, leading up to MagicCon Vegas, for example. That's going to make things a lot smoother for the events that are there. And it's going to be easier for them to pitch to the money people why this matters and why it's good.
I would say even a step further is she already has a relationship with people at Wizards.
Sure.
So her opinion is probably going to be trusted a little bit more, taken into consideration a little more. I mean, that's just human nature, when they're already familiar with you and your work.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just at this point, I don't feel like Wizards can go without this type of position. You need a focal point for the people who make content about your product. You need someone they can go to. They can ask questions, even if they're denied privately or whatever. Or somebody can ask for assets, or they can ask for approvals, or they can, whatever it takes. All that stuff needs somebody that you can go and say, hey, I'm going to make a thing about this. And is there anything that Wizards would want to comment on it, for example?
Yeah.
That would be a person you talk to about it. Maybe they don't, but at least you have somebody you can talk to, and that person's important. Let's move on here to a new secret lair. Woo! It's a slow news week. What do you want from us? But there is a new secret lair, and it is sweet. And why is it called the Ultimate Pencil Superdrop again? I don't know.
I have no idea.
They have the weirdest things. Every single order includes Secret Lair's very first pencil. Okay. What?
Oh, I don't know what that is.
Once upon a time, we did a Kickstarter, and we had matches as like a bonus like thing that you get sent to you in the mail, and that caused no end of headaches, by the way. This sounds like some silly. What silly thing can we put in the box? Pencils.
Well, it won't freak people out. Yeah,
it won't. It won't.
You know what's funny though? Depending on what they put on the pencils, that pencil's probably going to be like a $20-$30 pencil in a couple years.
Yeah.
There's so many random magic things over the years that if they're printed in small numbers, just end up being valuable in 5 to 10 years. It's crazy.
Ultimate Pencil Superdrop. I don't understand.
I don't either.
Remember the M&Ms for Innistrad? Remember the Innistrad M&Ms?
Sure. Yeah.
That's cute. So they got a secret here with KEXP, which is apparently a legendary independent radio station. I've never heard of KEXP.
Sure.
But between songs, you'll often hear a phrase read by DJs, "You are not alone." And very cool. And you're feeling down, makes the world feel a little brighter and a little less lonely. And so here you have a lot of group hug cards.
Amazing.
Exchange.
Oh, that's very fun.
Oh, that makes sense.
I get it.
And
nice.
Flourishing and Fauna Mythos. And so, yeah, all that kind of stuff.
Sure. Why not? That's great.
Cool. KEXP, where the music matters. These are some basic lands. Okay. Again, this is the first set of basic lands, I believe, since SpongeBob. But also, before that, there was only like one Secret Lairs set of lands sold before it. Basic lands. So that's interesting. We have Jay Howell. This is the guy. What does this guy draw? This is very familiar, his art style.
Yeah, let me look it up.
Okay,
I have no idea.
Right out.
Also, KEXP, for those who don't know, is
there you go.
KEXP is a radio station in Seattle, by the way. So it's probably Wizards is probably very familiar with them.
That makes a lot of sense because they listen to it day in and day out and so on. So yeah, Bob's Burgers, really
original
cool
character designer for Bob's Burgers.
Yep, and you can definitely see it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Cool. Yeah, little Marchesa in there, a little civil unrest.
Mean, Treasonous Ogre is a money card, right?
Is it?
That's, I think so. It's a CEDH card at least.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
I don't know that it's money card, but I know that it's the way that you cast Itali in CEDH. One of the ways.
Treasonous Ogre is currently about $10. It was in Conspiracy on the list, so sure.
Great.
Sounds like fun. Can any of you, without looking it up, tell me what Dethrone does?
If you are attacking the person with the most life, this card gets a +1/+1 counter.
You are correct. Good job.
Nice.
Yep.
If this creature attacks the player with the most life or tie for the most life, put a counter on it. High five. That's cool. So that's neat. Down here is everything is on fire. These are burn cards. They're here to burn you, here to get you. But we have something new this time, which is interesting. So you got everything is fire cool. And you're like, wait, what's this gold, shiny border stuff? Well, these are raised foils. I haven't seen yet pictures of these in real life, or like that thing where they do the shimmy shake thing for the cards or whatever. However, you can get the non-foil for $30, the rainbow foil for $40, and the raised foil for $100.
Wow.
So
yeah, I will need to know what that is.
These, and feel free to correct me, but I don't think any of these are very high dollar cards.
No, they're not. I mean, it's Lava Spike, Chain Lightning that has like 6 printings now. Yeah, like so.
Rift Bolt's uncommon, Dragon's Rage is uncommon. Yeah. So the card selection is interesting. This is we're definitely in scientific testing territory here.
Of course,
what is working and not. So, will you pay $100 for 5 cards that are very playable, but they're also not the most expensive cards right now?
Sure. I mean, I've paid more than $20 for a Lightning Bolt. Like, I'm not above that.
Sure.
Yeah, that sort of was my view. Like, I've seen some rare versions of a couple of cards. Like, people want the old original foil of some of these that are like $30 anyway.
Right.
So, like, maybe, like, it looks crazy. I get it when you see $100 for 5 cards.
Look, man.
But people spend a lot for crazy foil versions of stuff. Yeah. Like, this is not unheard of as a set of 5.
If they don't have Lightning Bolt as the bonus card here,
that was my thought.
Sure.
You didn't put Lightning Bolt in this? Are you kidding me?
See, you said that, but my honest thought is I might spend the $100 gambling that there's a raised foil Lightning Bolt.
Yeah.
And that's going to be on. So these cards are likely going to be sort of minimum $10-ish plus. Yeah. And maybe one of them is going to spike or whatever. Maybe they're going to do that thing where there's, a couple different things that could be in that bonus slot, which is what they've been doing recently. There's that Smothering Tides from SpongeBob with a whole bunch of money because it's super rare. So if the Lightning Bolt's there by default, high five. If something else is super rare and more expensive, that's cool too. But
I also
y'all better be giving me a Lightning
Bolt. This is going to be printed in a smaller quantity as well. So that's also going to make them more valuable in the long run.
They'll sell out faster.
Going to have a harder time finding them. Yeah.
Like, if I were putting the numbers on this, I would put a very low number because A, you don't know how many you're going to sell, and B, when you do want to sell, like, you want to sell like that. You know what
exactly.
I mean? Like,
also in the chat,
next time.
We have somebody who says they paid $80 for a Brainstorm. I was like, yep, I've seen that. So
let's go.
It's not that weird. I think the dollar value freaks people out, but when you look at other older versions of some of these cards that are in these rare foils or whatever, people pay for them.
Yeah.
So there is also raised foils for the Vroom Secret Lair package featuring Lava Dart, Monster, Swift Spear, Soulscar Mage, Underworld Breach, and Mishra's Bauble. I'm sure they hated banning Underworld Breach before this thing went insane.
Yeah.
Because that was going to be the money here, clearly. And it also has the
$100 you know what?
option. So
Bauble could be the one in there that people would pay a lot for to have a crazy version of Bauble.
Yeah, Bauble is the one that's definitely the one that has the highest ceiling for sure.
Yeah, it looks super rad, and I like it. And so, yeah, again, there's no lightning bolt here either. So I'm just like, where's my bolt, y'all? Where's my bolt?
Yeah, well, sure.
It better be in one of them. That's all I'm saying. Or
it probably is.
We're writing. That's it.
I mean, there's a couple of cards that we could, the burn, 10 cards does not a burn deck mate. It could also be a mountain. I would be okay with a raised foil mountain.
It would be really rad.
Oh my God. You know how expensive those things would ultimately go for?
Yeah, because you need 18 of them or whatever. Yeah, for sure.
Moving on here, we have new releases here for MTG Arena. They've been talking about the silly alchemy stuff is out and about. The alchemy decks you can play them right now in what's called Midweek Magic for free. These digital only cards are insane. I don't even know what to say sometimes how crazy these things are. So like, go nuts, have fun.
Yeah.
I mean, hell,
I just have fun. I just don't understand. One, some of the cards literally could just be regular Magic cards. So I don't even know why that's a thing. But then I guess it's because we were pitched that the two things we're going to try to do with this format is make cards that you can't make in digital.
Right. Or paper.
And then either make other cards that help balance the format or rebalance cards that aren't necessarily fair in standard.
Right.
But we're not really doing either of those now, and we're just making weird cards for the sake of making weird cards. Like, one of them is like a 3-mana 2/4 flyer with like mobilize, and then every card after that gets your choice of like one of 3 abilities or something.
It's crazy.
It's just like
but where's my Heartfire mouse? Where's my 0/1 Heartfire mouse? Right.
Yeah,
where's my 2-mana monstrosity rage or whatever? Monstrous rage. Like, give me some of those changes. Yeah, new cards are weird and cool, but like, could we also try some different stuff in the fixed standard? Where is my Duskmourn like buffs, right? Like, let's see some of those cards get some love. That would be nice to try something different. So, and they've warned early. Well, they've basically said we've got somebody on as a designer for Alchemy. We'll see. Also, Rosewater noted on Blogatalk this week that if a card can work in paper that is in Alchemy right now, it is on the table for printing later.
Okay.
Sure.
And I still
believe it when I see it.
And I think I don't think it's a if, I think when there's another unset, that's when we'll see those Alchemy cards being printed in paper. Like the actual silly digital only whatever BS, because it's an unset, it's an acorn at the bottom, who cares? Why not? Let's go nuts. So that's interesting. Last little bit here, and this is, maybe it's just a tiny mistake. Maybe this didn't catch it. Maybe it's not a big deal. But they do note on the schedule that on May 10th through May 12th is the Pioneer Showcase. There's no Pioneer on Magic Arena. There's Explorer on Magic Arena. So if that's the Explorer Showcase, great. But it's not Pioneer because they're still missing just a handful of cards. Just a tiny, and if they released like a content pack to like fill out the rest of the format, for like 2,000 gems or whatever they charge, I'd be down to clown, man. Like, give us the last few bits.
Well, they got 9 days. I mean, like,
maybe they've been working on it for a while. I don't know. I mean,
you've got roughly a week if we're gonna hear anything.
I know, right? It's gonna be weird. All right, let's move on here. Wanted to throw a shout out to community member Bobbie-Christine.
Yeah,
they're cancer free. Let's go.
Yeah, Bobbie-Christine is someone that I got to be more familiar with through the ambassador program this most recent time around.
Nice.
They are a big, if you haven't heard of them, go check them out. If you're a content creator right now in Magic, you've probably heard of them. They run one of the largest Discords for gameplay and organizing and putting your shows and your streams together. Pretty much every time you click into their Discord, one of the chat channels is full and is actively playing a Commander game. And so, they are a not just a community member, but a community like pillar who helps build the community. And this is just wonderful news. Anytime anyone, not just someone who is so foundational to the Magic community for helping people to create and show off things that they make. So congratulations to them.
Very nice. Yeah, I'm a big fan of celebrating anybody that gets over cancer because, man, I've seen it take everybody from 8-year-old kids to 30-year-old track runners. So
it's tough.
If you can beat it, congrats, because that's not a easy journey.
Yep. So, one last bit I thought was interesting. Just a few days ago, on April 28th, was the 8-year anniversary of the release of Amonkhet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
The Embalms of the world, Exert showed up. Split cards from the Aftermath split cards. And they brought back cycling. Oh my God, cycling's back.
There you go. And they also finally did the Egyptian themed set, which was one of on our bucket list when we were putting together our list of what's a thing we haven't done. And it was always Egypt and Vikings. And now they've done Egypt and now they've done Vikings. Although I'd like to do more Vikings.
Right. And I do think, again, we've noted this before, sort of the hat sets don't do as well as the theme sets, right?
Right.
The race car set and the cowboy set doesn't resonate as well as let's do some dragons and cool, awesome, lore things that they can dig into. All right, let's move on here to some splash damage. Goodness gracious, we got some silly stuff going on this week. Not going to touch on the tariffs we talked about last week. But okay, so this is wild. There is a world of distribution that exists, right? And this is how Wizards generally sells their product. And you need this for a variety of reasons, mainly for customer support and like having to break that out. But distributors, they get millions of dollars of product. They sell that to thousands of stores around, the world, depending on the distribution. But we're talking about America here. So there's a few big ones. There's Alliance, there's Diamond, there's ACD, there's Southern Hobby, there's a whole variety, GTS and so on. Well, Diamond ain't doing great. Because Diamond has been going into bankruptcy. And it's really weird, first of all, for a distributor to go into bankruptcy when every other distributor has been killing it. And in fact, they killed it so hard and Diamond has done so poorly, their business has literally shrank, that Wizards decided to no longer sell them product. It's really important. We'll get to it in a second. So, Diamond's like, look, we're in Chapter 11 bankruptcy. We want to sell the company. Let's find us a buyer. Well, Alliance shows up, which won the bid in the bankruptcy process. They do that. Who's the highest bidder? They got it. And they want to go. And they want to say, okay, well, let's do this. And at the time, Diamond's like, look, we can still sell Magic product. We're still selling Magic product. We still have a contract to sell Wizards product. That's a big deal because that's part of why the company is worth what it's worth, why they're paying millions of dollars. So at the time, Alliance said, here is $10 million. I think it's 10.5, but let's say $10 million in a bank account, in your bank account. Like, we are for real. We're not kidding. This is a down payment, no fooling. We're buying the company. Cool. Then they come to find out that there is no further contract with Wizards for Diamond. And in fact, Diamond's contract ran out last December, when they were talking about all of this. And Wizards extended it for 3 months, and then it extended it one more month through April. Now, the idea, essentially, that we found out, is that Diamond is like, look, if we can get Alliance to buy us for the full cost as if we have the Wizards contract, we're going to be making the big bucks. But if we lose that Wizards contract, and they know that, the value of the company is going to go down, the amount they pay is going to go down, that's going to be a problem. Well, that's exactly what happened. Was essentially there was a large meeting between Alliance, Diamond, and Wizards where the truth came out. Diamond no longer has the license. Why are we paying so much money for your company if you don't have it? You've been lying to us about Wizards giving you that ability to sell the product. That's the big, big problem. And now we're going to sue in court. And that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, if they can prove that it was a actual lie as opposed to a lie by omission, then that's going to be the crux.
Well, I would venture to guess, based on everything I've read, that Wizards probably was of the assumption that they were going to express that to Alliance, because my understanding is that Wizards only made that extension so they could get priority among the creditors. So they would be a high priority creditor. So once the deal went through, their chapter, whatever, they end up getting priority to be paid back over other people because they still owe Wizards over 900K. So that sounds like it's not going to happen and wasn't going to be the thing. So then Wizards probably also feels duped. So I would imagine if you need to know anything, Wizards is going to cooperate with Alliance without too many issues.
Yeah. So a sliver of truth, this is quoting from court documents, a sliver of truth came to light on April 12th, just a few weeks ago, only after the execution of basically the bona fide documents. You literally have to show us the actual contracts now. You can't, no fooling, no holding back the date from the contract, which is something they apparently did when they sent it over previously, which is obviously a problem. And yeah, they feigned outrage. The termination was shocking. It came out of nowhere. They had no idea, even though they absolutely had an idea last December. That's your problem. So the whole thing sounds shady as all get out. The $10 million has not been returned. And all of this is going to come down in a court case that's going to be ugly and probably last a very long time.
Also, the timeline's ugly because they had those discussions prior to them announcing they were declaring bankruptcy. Yeah, so they knew well ahead of time before all that started because they didn't announce their bankruptcy till the beginning of this year.
This sounds like a mess.
It's a hot mess.
Yeah,
big, hot, scary mess.
It's millions of dollars, big boy business behind the scenes going on.
Yeah.
Honestly, the only question for me, I really want to know, is how in the world, in the last few years of how well Magic has done, how did that distributor shrink and sell, I think they said 8% less Magic than they were?
Right.
How was there? How? What did you do to not sell Lord of the Rings, right? What did you do to not sell these giant products that sold great? I don't get it.
My guess is they didn't have the cash flow necessary because they were leveraging other items that weren't successful, didn't sell, maybe invested in some things that didn't give them the return they expected.
Yeah.
Because for a long time, Diamond's been known in the industry to just take privileges with things because they were the big boy, right? They had all the big contracts with Marvel, with DC,
right?
So they figured they could just do what they wanted. And then slowly but surely that starts to dry up a little bit with a few bad business decisions. And you've got competition in other spaces. So now what do you do? And this is kind of where they're at, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, that $900,000 in the hole to Wizards, that didn't happen overnight. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
That happened $50K at a time, $75K at a time. This is rough. And then after a while, you're like, hey, Wizards, I want millions of dollars of product. And they go, hey, how about you pay us back? And then they go, well, we can pay you some, And
you got to give us at least 25-30% of that back now so we know you're good and make an effort to pay it.
Right. Isn't this the plot? This is the plot to Uncut Gems. Right? This is spoiler alert. But yeah.
Okay, it's wild, it's crazy. I'm glad I'm not involved. Let
me say this though, that from a fan perspective, a player perspective, you're not going to notice anything different, right? There are tons of big distributors that have actually increased their market share of Magic sales significantly over the last few years.
Yeah.
So you're not going to your local
MTG
store,
Nerd Girl says, "Isn't 900K like 5 collector boxes?"
Yeah, exactly. Your local game store likely already has an account with at least 2 of those other distributors anyway,
for sure,
for buying a variety of products.
Right.
So you're not going to notice anything when you walk into your local store. They're still going to do business as usual. This is more just if you heard anything, this is what's actually going on.
Yeah, which is it's very inside baseball, but that's what we're here to do sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's okay. Let's turn the corner here to the finisher. Now, for the first time in many years, 4 movies made more than $20 million at the box office. Sinners, a Minecraft movie, The Accountant 2, and the 30th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith. The movies are back, baby. So tell me, what's the movie coming soon that you're most excited for, Ruben?
Well, I already have my tickets for Thunderbolts **, but I am, and so I'm really excited to see that this weekend. And afterwards, I am fully prepared, and this is not really a punchline so much as me just sharing my opinion. I'm fully prepared to defend my hottest take. Julia Louis-Dreyfus is the greatest actor of my lifetime. Just the highest batting average across career of anyone in my life.
That is a hot take. but not awful enough of a hot take that I can push too back, too hard. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, when you win multiple Best Actress Emmys for Best Actor in a series across 3 or 4 decades,
De Niro, Pacino, Daniel Day-Lewis,
yeah, there's a lot of white men on the list as well. But I
Denzel,
I think that,
come on,
sure, man. Denzel, Meryl Streep, these are great actors.
Yeah.
I don't think Julia Louis-Dreyfus gets the credit she deserves. So I will put her in the conversation.
Fair
enough. Power Dragon?
Man, I have to say, the movies are probably making a bunch of money because people are out for some escapism right now.
Mm-hmm.
But the throwback Final Fantasy movie actually looks pretty damn cool. I saw the previews like a month ago. So I'm excited more than anything that Pedro Pascal is finally getting the chance to lead a sci-fi series. Because, man, he's appeared in so many of them.
For Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four.
Not for Final Fantasy, but...
Oh, that's true.
That would be... Yeah, the Fantastic Four looks super great. Everything I've seen is really encouraging. I'm very excited. I hope it doesn't suck. Now, look, the Odyssey is on the horizon. That's right. And I am always excited for any movie that comes from, for my money, the greatest storyteller of all time. No, not Christopher Nolan. No, not Homer. The greatest storyteller of all time is, of course, Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
Go watch The Martian.
That's right.
I've seen that movie many times. It's a fantastic movie. I love it. But that ends another live episode of Magic Mike's. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things magic. Thank you, Power Dragon.
Hey, it's always good to be here. Don't forget, like, subscribe, give all the reviews, all the good stuff you need to do.
Thank you, Ruben.
Hey, thanks everybody for showing up. It's really kind of you to show up. If you could do me one more kindness, I'm going to share a link in the chat for the Taskmaster Los Angeles Champion of Champions episode that we recorded live at WonderCon.
Nice.
We're very proud of this show, and we would like to make more of them. And at this point, we need clicks and views and comments and things like that. If you like seeing me hosting things, then you're going to like it. So please go check out myself and Ryan Omega with some wonderful guests, including former NFL player Johnny Stanton, professional author Kiri Callaghan, and many more. It's an hour of your time. Also, you can just click it and not watch it. That's, please give me algorithms.
Clicks. Yeah, go throw it. This is cool. Thumbs up, a comment. It's all good as we move here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, Mana Traders, my co-host, Power Dragon, and Ruben Bressler. Viewers like you for watching or listening. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us on our exclusive member Discord. Subscribe to our Patreon. Watch us live on Twitch. Join us live or taped on our YouTube channel. Check out our TikTok or follow us on Blue Sky. Or join us here next week. Same time, same place for another episode of Magic Mike's. Good night, everybody.